All right, we're gathering, special gathering for Feast of Weeks, getting together, seeing what we can study on the subject, straight out of Torah. Ezzy suggested Exodus 23, Leviticus 23. I think she also said Ruth. So we'll start with Exodus 23. We'll read the whole chapter. Is the whole chapter, Ezzy?
I don't know if you want to do the whole chapter.
There's a portion in here? All right, let me see.
Yeah, it starts in
10?
14.
14. I see 10 to 19. Let's do Exodus 23, 10 to 19. This might be a little overview of a few more, but it says, for 6 years you shall sow your land and shall gather in its increase. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the animal of the field shall eat. In the same way you shall deal with your vineyard and with your olive grove. 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may have rest, and the son of your servant and the alien may be refreshed. Anyway, I'll keep going. It's beautiful. 7th-day Sabbath. That's again, we were talking before we recorded about keeping things to the best of our ability, and I hear some people trying to find ways around keeping the Shabbat. You know, like, oh, then we can't keep the Shabbat fully, so why? What do you mean? I don't have animals and donkeys. I mean, you don't have to have animals and donkeys. I don't think every Israelite had animals and donkeys. I think somebody was working for somebody who didn't have their own animals at some point. So, you know, the point is about resting. And for the alien too, for those who are strangers. So it even applies to people who aren't even, you know what I'm saying, natives. It says in verse 13, be careful to do all things that I have said to you, and don't invoke the name of other gods or even let them be heard out of your mouth. You shall observe a feast to me 3 times a year. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month Abib. For in it you came out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, and no one shall appear before me empty. All right, this Feast of Unleavened Bread is one of the feasts where men are supposed to, from wherever you live, you're supposed to show up in Jerusalem. And don't be showing up empty-handed neither. You're supposed to show up with some kind of, you know, sacrifice, some animal that you purchase and get ready to give it. You know, I forget if you do it yourself, to sacrifice yourself, or if you give it to the priest, but that's one. Unleavened bread is one of them where you appear. So you take your plane trip, take your boat, your bus trip, you walk, wherever you're coming from, you get yourself to Jerusalem. And verse 16, it says, and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you sow in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year. So we got the feast of harvest, first fruits of your labor, which you sow in the field, and then the feast of ingathering at the end of the year. These are the 3. So unleavened bread, feast of harvest, and feast of ingathering. All right, these are times where you're supposed to gather. 17, 3 times in the year, all of your males. You see, this one is specific to men. Your males shall appear before the Lord Yahuwah. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread. The fat of my feast shall not remain all night until morning. That's the the lamb for unleavened bread. Whatever is eaten on that first night, whatever is not eaten needs to be burnt up. You shall bring the first of the first fruits of your ground into the house of Yahuwah, your Elohim. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. I think that's about it for that. So let's see here. First fruits would be on the Sunday right after the first day of unleavened bread. I think we discussed that last time we read on this. So if the 14th or the 15th, the first day of unleavened bread, lands on a Thursday, that means that upcoming Sunday would be first fruits. That's when Yahusha was found resurrected. He was it was confirmed that he was alive and resurrected on the first day of the week, which was the first fruits.